Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karuna Mami Chinmayam Devam Satguru Brahma Vidman. So, we are in Narada Bhakti Sutra, and last time what we saw was different definitions of what bhakti is. So we started with Vedavyasji, who said that bhakti is pujadishu, the act of worshipping a form, puja. And this very act, puja, helps us to get rid of our body identification. So that's why when we go to the temple, everything is so beautiful. The murti is decorated so nicely and so well because it makes us look only at that murti and not at anybody else and not even at us, not at what we're wearing, how do we look, but just as that at that murti. And the idea is we worship that murti, our body, speech, and mind are completely engaged. And that is the form of puja. Then Garga Rishi said, bhakti is katha, listening to the stories of God and just listening to his name, to his songs, chanting his stotrams. That is bhakti. Now we come to the third definition of bhakti, and this is by Shandilya Rishi. So let's look at Sutra 18. Atmarati, Atmarati, Avirodhe neti, Avirodhe neti, Shandilyaha, Shandilyaha. So what does Shandilya Rishi say? Shandilya Rishi says that bhakti is Atmarati. Atmarati means reveling in Atma, reveling in the self. So if you remember when we studied Upadesha Sara, there was a very beautiful progression in bhakti. How does it start? First, it starts with being able to focus. And so Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says, Pujanam japas chintanam kramat. So in the order, there's puja, there's japa, and there's chintanam. Puja is for the rupa or the form. Japa is for the nama or the name. Chintanam is for the swarupa or the nature. And when we come to chintanam, it divides into two. Ajya dharaya srotasa samam sarala chintanam viralataf para. So this chintanam, dhyana, contemplation is to be like ghee. Why ghee? Because ghee has a continuous stream, continuous flow. And that's what's meant to happen when we go to the temple and we see abhisheka. The way they pour the water or the milk on the idol, it's very gentle and very careful, right? And it's one stream. So our contemplation, it's meant to be in one stream of thought, but sometimes it's virala. Virala means it's interrupted. So from interrupted, we move to sarala, uninterrupted. And so in terms of how we contemplate, move from interrupted to uninterrupted. Then he talks about the object of contemplation. So first we start with Bheda Bhavana. Bheda Bhavana means we see a difference. This is God, this is me, and there's a difference. But after some time, we realize sohamitya so, that I am that. So from Bheda becomes Abheda, from difference to non-difference. And then After that, it becomes even a little bit deeper. It becomes bhavashulya or sadbhava sustiti. Means even that thought that I am that alone, even that thought dissolves and the self alone remains. And this is the culmination of that Atmarati. Atmarati is this, being able to revel in the self. In any of these levels, but this is the culmination of it. And this Atmarati is avirodha. Avirodha means it's not opposed to any of the other sadhanas that we do. We will find in our lives that our sadhanas vary. We will have one main sadhana that we probably do every day, but because there's so many things going on, sometimes we'll be engaged in puja. Sometimes there will be chanting. Sometimes there will be silence. So we do all of these practices and they are all in line with each other because they are all about one thing alone, which is devotion. We will notice that as we mature in the spiritual path, our practices may get a little subtler and a little subtler and a little subtler. But we should let this happen naturally, not upon force, because we may not be ready for it and then it will just backlash. Naturally, our mind will crave something else. Just like when people are young and they're playing with toys, once they get into the teenage stage, their mind craves for something else, not for toys anymore, but for friendships, to be social. Their mind craves something else. So let that naturally happen. Now, Narada is going to share his definition of bhakti. Naradastu tadarpita akhila acharata tadvismarena paramavyakulata iti. So Narada Rishi now gives his definition of bhakti. What does he say? Naradaha tu tad means towards that. Acharata, let's start from this. Acharata means actions. What actions? Akhila acharata, all actions. Aripita, dedication of all actions to that Lord alone. And tat vismarena means, vismara means to forget. So in the occasion of forgetting the Lord, parama vyakulata, parama excruciating, vyakulata, pangs. So according to Devarshi Narada, total dedication of all actions at the altar of the Lord and excruciating pangs of all moments of forgetfulness of the Lord is supreme love. So here, we see this in Bhagavad Gita all the time, to dedicate our actions, dedicate all our thoughts to Bhagavan. But what is this dedication? In the beginning stages, when we practice this dedication, there's a sense of separation and ownership. For example, this is my work and I dedicate it to you. This is my house and I dedicate it to you. This is my money and I dedicate it to you. So in the beginning stages, we feel like there is something that's called mine and I am dedicating it to you, Bhagavan. And in this, there's a very wrong notion. Because if we think deeply and analyze, what exactly is ours? Is there anything that we've actually created or built or thought of or done on our own that we can call mine? Is there anything that we have earned in our own right? We think of things that we have thought of. So many people have influenced or inspired that kind of holistic or evolutionary thinking. If we think of our bodies, so many people have contributed to the nourishment of this body. What about our money? What if we earned it by our own right? Yes, but who supports us through all of that, or throughout all of that? And how many people we work with support us? Not only that, but who prints the money? Who is it that assigns the value to the money and finally gets us the money? So many people are involved in the process. This concept that something is mine is something that is in the mind. When there's a property and it's being divided, the property doesn't know whose is who. It doesn't even know that it's being divided. We just make a mental transaction, a mental thought that now this portion is yours and this portion is mine. We make a mental thought and then we say, that's yours, this is mine. So this mine-ness and even I-ness is just a mental modification. So when we say, I dedicate to you, we still feel like there's two. The highest form of dedication is to say, Bhagavan, I offer myself to you. The only thing that it does not belong to God is our ego, because we ourselves have that misnomer, have that notion, that wrong notion. We ourselves cultivated that. We ourselves imagine it. We imagine that we are an individual unit or being. And so this is the only thing that doesn't belong to Bhagavan. So when we say, I offer this to you, I offer myself to you, that is the greatest offering. And in fact, when we do that, everything we think, see, hear, smell, taste, it automatically becomes offered to Bhagavan. And that's what it means to be a divine instrument, to offer ourselves completely at the altar of God. So this tad arpita akhila acharata, that's what that means. Then he says, there's something else I want to tell you. This is also Bhakti. What is also Bhakti? That vismarina, unforgetfulness, those excruciating pangs. Now, some of us don't understand what this means. A very nice example is being given, like if the skin is numb and a thorn pricks it, we can't feel anything. But only when the skin is in its natural state and a thorn pricks it, we feel it. So some of us are a little bit numb to this kind of emotion because maybe we haven't made this connection to a form of God or a name of God. But there are our great saints and sages who have felt these excruciating pangs of separation. This is excruciating pain, and that's called Bhakti. There was one devotee by the name of Kanakadasa. This Kanakadasa, he worshipped at the Krishna temple in Udupi. Now, this is a real story. And he was not allowed to go into the temple because people felt that he's of a lower status. So they said, oh, you can't come into the temple. And so what happened was he went to the back of the temple. And in the back of the temple, he started singing. He was just singing and singing to Sri Krishna that why are you apart from me? Why are you away from me? Please at least give me your glance. Please look at me. And so he was singing at the back of the temple, and there was a crack in the wall. Out of his deep devotion, the idol, which was facing this way, actually turned around to face Kanakadasa. That much was his devotion. That much was his pain. It turned around to face him. And he had darshan of Shri Krishna. And now they filled a window with 9 holes. So this temple is very, very unique in that To have darshan of the deity, you see it through the window. And the window is named after Kanaka. And that deity which was facing east is now facing west, all because of the devotion of the bhakta. The bhakta is someone who's not vibhakta, who's not separate from God, and who can not ever think of themselves separate from God. And if they ever feel it or get a sense of separation, they feel such intense pangs. So this is what he felt. So even this is bhakti, to feel pain, to feel like we're away from that divine. Sometimes when people are in the greatest pain, the most creative things happen, isn't it? There's a saying that adversity causes some to break, but it causes some to break records. Very often we find singers or musicians or artists even, like Van Gogh, in their deep pain, they really, really poured their heart and soul out and created such beautiful symphonies and harmonies and masterpieces that wear their devotion to the divine. So even this immense pain, when we feel it, can also be bhakti, can also be an opening, a door to devotion. Tad vismarena parama vyakulata is bhakti. Then Narada goes on to say, Sutra 20, Astyevam evam, astyevam evam. Asti means there is, evam this way, evam this way. What he means to say is bhakti can be practiced in so many, many ways. There's no limit. Anything can be an act of devotion as long as it's done with our pure heart and towards a higher altar. And that altar can be anything. It can be our parents, it can be our country, it can be a high ideal, it can be guru, it can be God, it can be goddess, it can even be that ultimate true self. So there's so many ways to practice it. There's so many types of it. It's such a colorful path. And so he says, this is bhakti. Now, what he's going to do next is he's going to tell us, or actually show us, how beautiful this devotion is expressed in the lives of the gopis. But this we will take up next week, because I noticed a lot of you aren't here today, probably because Thanksgiving is next week, which is okay, but we will continue next week with the gopis. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.